Hi, I'm Amy Saylor with the Connecticut Science Center. Every year, the Connecticut Science Center recognizes the achievements of STEM professionals and leaders in our state, especially those who share our mission to inspire lifelong learning through interactive and innovative experiences that explore our changing world through science. This year, we're happy to highlight some of the 2020 nominees for the Petit Family Foundation Women in Science Leadership Award. This award recognizes a working woman in STEM who's a leader in her field and who makes a significant effort to support other women and girls. Today, I'm joined by Emily Bartz, Project Staff Engineer for Sikorsky Aircraft, a Lockheed Martin company. Emily, hi. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Well, let me start by congratulating you on your nomination for the 2020 Petit Family Foundation Women in Science Leadership Award. You are certainly deserving, and and our audience, I'm sure, can't wait to hear about some of the work that you've done and are doing. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great surprise and a great honor.
Great. So let's jump right in.
Sure.
Would you mind sharing with me who and or what was your inspiration for pursuing a career as an engineer, or where did your interest in STEM begin?
I think it really was more just a general curiosity about pretty much everythh. I was always that kid asking how or why something worked the way that it did. And through Girl Scouts, we would do these tours of um, different facilities. We went to Camp Sikorsky when I was in high school, and I've always been fascinated with just what goes on behind, all of the things that we see around us every day. And I had a particular interest in aviation. I would always lay out on the lawn in front of my parents' house and just watch the planes and the helicopters fly overhead, and just always wanted to know what made everything work.
What made everything work?
Mhm.
I'm glad to hear you mention curiosity. It's something that I've heard over and over again in my interviews with a number of the nominees. And it reminds me of the T-shirt actually that we have at the Science Center. We sell in our gift shop, and it says "Stay Curious." So I love the fact that it's not always this kind of genius type thing. It's just general natural curiosity
Mhm.
that we get to if we have the right kind of, or I should say, the adequate amount of encouragement um, and room to explore our interests. I think that's really important. So thank you
Yes,
for sharing
absolutely.
that and for reminding us and me to stay curious at all times. So about your role as an engineer in general, but more specifically as the aerodynamics lead for Sikorsky's Black Hawk program, how has that shaped you as an individual?
So the getting that role was my first full-time position with Sikorsky. So that was
Wow.
a big deal for me. Obviously, I didn't start out as the lead.
Hmm.
I worked my way up to that, and basically started at Sikorsky as an intern working on wind tunnels, and then went into aerodynamics, and that really helped me to see how our products were used. Basically, my role there was to, we'd have a customer say, okay, I want to get a Black Hawk, and, we want to be able to fly over these mountains, pick up patients, and then fly back. It's this far. Can we do that? So we would run all of those calculations and figure out if we could really help them in what they wanted to do. And it was really that customer interface and really the meeting their customer needs that gave me a really good perspective of how our products were used later on, and then from there I moved from aerodynamics into propulsion design. So then I basically went sort of from the front end to the back end of how we design things, and went into the executive helicopter program, which is Marine One. So it's the presidential helicopter program.
Wow.
And
That's exciting.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
I'm sure
very,
it's all exciting.
yes. Oh yeah, of course. Anytime you get to be on the floor with the helicopters is always exciting.
Hmm.
And through there, I would help integrate our engines, fuel systems, things like that. And I'd be crawling around a helicopter trying to figure out, why an installation wasn't working or something like that. And I would just come home and be like, that was a really cool day. Because no matter what, you learn something new, even if and I spent, years working on those helicopters, and they there's always something new to learn about them.
Sure.
Hmm.
That's exciting work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
s-
absolutely.
Certainly, I think sometimes when we think about science or STEM, um, you might think it's a little lonely, or a little dim, takes
Hmm.
place in a room. You talked about some of the specific things that your role required, but I also heard you say we. So you worked as
Hmm.
part of a team as well?
Oh yeah, every role I've been in has been part of a team. We've um, it's funny, team projects were always something that I found the to be more challenging when I was in school, but pretty much everything I've ever done since then has been a team project.
Interesting.
Yeah, so even the actual work of sitting and creating or revising a drawing, that part of it might be just
Hmm.
you and your computer, but everything leading up to that and afterwards is working with a team. you know um, so because even with, say, a fuel system, it might require some input from the electrical folks or
Hmm.
the engineering folks, so even though I was just propulsion, you always have to work with other engineers and other program managers to make sure that you have all your funding, your schedule is going right, all of that. And just, you all have to work towards the same goal. And I've found
Mm.
projects that work best work when everybody has the context behind the project that you're doing and knows what the goal is from the outset. So that way you're all running in the same
Same
direction.
direction. Absolutely.
Everything I've worked on where there hasn't been good communication up front of what the end goal is has been the most difficult, the most challenging.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about the fact that for the most part, your field is male dominated, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Strongly, yes.
Yes, okay. And so I'm interested to know then how your career experiences, be it on a team or just in general, has influenced the way you go about encouraging other young women to enter the field of the sciences and engineering.
Yeah. So I try, every time I meet, a younger woman who is interested in engineering, or any younger woman who is already working at Sikorsky, I always try and just be like, if you have any questions at all, reach out. There's only been a couple of times in my career, uh, be it, I haven't been in the field that long. We're talking still under a decade, but
Hmm.
there's only been a couple of times where that's really been an issue.
Hmm.
And it was never with anyone at my current company. It was always with someone who was like outside of the company that we were working with who had an issue. And it's it has a pretty large impact on my ability, and I'm sure others, but in my personal experience, it had a very large impact on my confidence that I had the ability to do the work. Right? Nothing changed about what I knew or what we were doing. It's
Mm.
just the fact that there was someone undercutting me at every step made me pause and think, am I really the right person for this?
Wow.
Should someone else be doing this? And
Mm.
I never want anyone else to feel that way. So it's um so I always try and encourage. I've mentored a couple of younger women at Sikorsky, and whenever we have Camp Sikorsky, which is a big event that we do here, where we've got 400 Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts who come and camp out on our front lawn, and we give them tours of the plants, and we make workshops. And I attended when I was 16, so 15 years ago, and
Wow.
yeah, long enough.
Long enough.
Yeah, I attended, and now we have all these scouts come, and I teach the aviation workshop, and I help coordinate all the workshops and everything. So anytime any woman shows any interest in engineering or math or science, I'm just like, here's my card, please reach out to me, just to give that extra little step, that boost of confidence, and like, absolutely, yes, this is something you can do.
Well, I'm so glad that you make yourself available in that way. It's important, as you mentioned, to have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And even in my work with girls around STEM programming, most of that, if not all of that programming, really is designed to boost their self-efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that they have support at different points along their STEM trajectory, particularly as learners, before
Mm-hmm.
to the place where you are, hopefully, we certainly want to have them prepared. And thank you for the work that you do and helping to prepare them.
Yeah, any small part.
Sure. So talk a little bit about, you mentioned Camp Sikorsky. What other projects are you involved in or wanting to become involved in?
Right. So I've done, a myriad of different, particularly Girl Scout related events, through our mutual contact that we were mentioning before.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, really it's mostly through a role of working with Sikorsky. I'll go and teach, a little bit of aerodynamics and a little bit about helicopters. Um, you know, I really like getting to work with the younger um, girls, because they're so curious,
Mm,
and I feel like as they get older, they get a little bit more shy, a little bit more reserved about asking questions, like, oh no, maybe this is a dumb question to ask. But the smaller they are, they don't care, they just want to know.
right.
So I love working with all of the the younger girls in that sense. And then outside of STEM, I volunteer with the local animal shelter, the volunteer coordinator for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even now we're still adopting out dogs. It just has to be one person at a time by appointment,
Right.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
Wow.
So that managing that part of it has been a little bit of a challenge with
Sure.
COVID-19 going on. And then something that's actually stopped for the most part right now with everything going on is I'm also a Krav Maga instructor.
Say that again?
I'm a Krav Maga instructor. So I teach, it's an Israeli military style of self-defense.
Ah,
Yes. And I like having, women's empowerment workshops. I teach a women's only class, and it's really all about owning your space and
your
your
space.
confidence,
Mhm.
right? Because teaching someone a self-defense move, like teaching someone a math equation, that's the easy part. It's getting building up their confidence to be able to
Mhm.
use it. So I do a lot with through Krav Maga, but since for the past couple of months, it's been sort of on the
Sure.
wayside. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. And, so that's certainly an approach. I had asked you earlier about, how you influence um, young girls and women. So whether it's a girl who's interested in entering the field, or a woman who is already there,
Yeah.
right? Owning your space. Owning your
Hmm.
space is key, I would
Hmm.
imagine. So to be able to do that internally and externally and have that confidence about you is really great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm
Hmm.
glad to know that. And let's see, is there anything else you'd like to, to share, or anything else you'd like our audience to know?
Stay curious, like
Stay
you said, I really like
curious.
that phrase. The best thing that I've learned from my college and everything that I've learned from my on-the-job training has been just sort of how to think through a problem
Mm,
and how to answer those questions of why and how, taking into account various scenarios and challenges and ways to overcome them. There's very rarely is there such a hard roadblock that you can't move forward at all. It just
mhm.
means you have to take a step back and think about it in a different way, right? So, there's very rarely are there dead ends, but there are different challenges and different things that you have to try and maneuver and figure out. So that's definitely something that I would want all of your listeners to know is just take the time to think through it. There is almost always a way.
Always a way.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story. And I am, again, really happy to have this conversation with you, and happy to know that you are so early in your career. I'm looking forward to seeing all the great things that I know that you're going to do. So, again, congratulations on your nomination. And we hope to see you at the Connecticut Science Center in some capacity sooner than later. And again, thank you for sharing your time and your story, and you enjoy the rest of your day, Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. This was fun.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.